Hi, everybody. Matt Lawton here, and this is the Astrological Winds channel. I'm going to take a look at the astrological weather report for the week of March 18th through 24th. And we've got two of the inners changing signs. We've got the sun going into Aries in our equinox, and we also have Mars later in the week going into Pisces. And Mercury is going to revisit that all month Chiron North Node conjunction again. So we talk about that. But first, a little business. The Astrological Winds channel is a video blog that I do on YouTube every week. And if you have a YouTube account and you like what you see, you can become a follower. And when you do that, don't forget to have your notifications on so that you know when the blog is posted. And remember, it was a podcast long before it was a video channel on YouTube. So it's still available on podcasts. You can find it out there like Apple iPodcasts. Just look up Astrological Winds channel on one of your favorite podcasts. If you don't see it there, look somewhere else. It's out there for sure, and a bunch of them. Also has an Instagram page. So if you have an Instagram account, become a follower of Astrological Winds channel, and that's another place where every week I post the link, and some weeks I post some extra information that's just some commentary form that you can read on certain days, certain things going on astrologically. So that's fun too. And then I also have a private Facebook account under my name. That's Matthew with two T's, Lawton, Lauten. And I do post the link every week there. And so if you want to private friend me there, it'll show up in your newsreel every week. And the one place you can always find the link to is on my website, which is www.astrologicalwinds.com. Doesn't have the channel at the end there. And that's also has all the information you might need to check and see what I offer professionally as an astrologer. I've been doing readings for over 20 years. The best way you can support me is when and if you want, or someone else wants a astrology reading, you can check out my webpage. I have all kinds of different readings there. There are prices there. I can work with you at the prices. If there's like open up a dialogue. There's a way you can just hit email from me right to the from the website, or my email is matthue823 at gmail.com. And if you have a group looking for some kind of astrology thing too, there's information on that too, classes, things like that. And if you ever want to give to the blog, my Venmo handle is at Matthew-Lawton, Lauten. No amount is too small, and I appreciate everyone who does or brings anything to the blog like that. So anyway, like I said, check all that stuff out on the website. That's the best way to get the information. So this week starts off really tomorrow with the sun going into Aries, which is the equinox, the spring equinox up here in the northern hemisphere, and the fall or autumn equinox in the southern hemisphere. And so it's the beginning of the zodiacal year, as far as the zodiac that was created by the Greeks, a couple thousand, 3,000 years ago. And so, as a calendar, really that's what the zodiac is more than anything. It's just a calendar of the year. And it started in the spring, which was the time where, life is renewing, the crops are being planted, the animals are being brought back out into the field. So, life is really regenerating in that on that level on the spring equinox here in the northern hemisphere anyway. And so what it really means from the zodiac perspective is like it's the beginning of the zodiac. That's the self. That's the Pisces is the most collective sign, right? And Aries is the sign that's the most self-oriented, and has a lot to do with Mars and the Sun, actually, which are the two most self-oriented planets in the zodiac. So, it's a time really, since it's a seeding time when you think about it like that. It's almost like a new moon in a certain way, except the whole zodiacal year is turning over. So it's a time of new beginnings. It's a time when we can really initiate, and we should be feeling that. We should feel that energy inside us of wanting to take action now, of wanting to move forward with whatever, you know, is what we're wanting to take initiative on, whatever is like something that, and with Aries, that's usually some kind of adventure. There's something out there. We're looking for something new. We're looking to initiate, to break into new territory. And one of the things about Aries is to always remember that that can be found even in our everyday life. So it may just be a new approach to the things that, how we act in everyday life. But, so it's very, very self interested energy, very, very subjective energy. It's energy that is very present. It really cares mainly about what's going on right in front of it. And therefore, that can create some problems with Aries energy. One of the things with Aries is because we are so involved in ourself at this point, we can get very subjective in the way we look at things, and we're not very receptive to like things that are coming in. And we can get really, for want of a better term, we can get very aggressive about what we believe in, very defensive when anybody challenges that. There's a very competitive nature to Aries energy. It's very youthful, and youthfulness is not equated with wisdom. Yeah, it's something that's, learning through the, once again, through the present day life experiences that it's going on with, with the archetype for Aries is the warrior, and it's really about like just survival of the self, of the ability to keep going. So that's why it's so present too, and it's not very sensitive to its actions. It's honest and upfront, but it's not very tactful, And so that insensitivity can come across as selfishness, that kind of energy that, where your actions are not, they're not aligned with other people, or they could be seen as aggressive, and and people can actually turn on you. They can be like, hey, I don't want to be in the space of this person because it's a little bit too intense for me. So, so that's what we have to really look at. But it brings a lot of courage to us to move forward. We will do things that we haven't done before, and we're looking for that new adventure. And we don't always have to think that that new adventure is over on the other side of the hill. It can be right in front of us. It's really about, the attitude that we take. But we can be very risky and very impulsive with our energy, with when it's this Aries energy that's driving us, and we can get ourselves into accidents, therefore, from not thinking out things, or injure ourselves, or do things that we regret. And that even though in the present we were really wrapped up in it, in the future it's going to damage like a lot of like our ability to, retake in that impression. But we really, we can get really like revved up at times, and really make waves. So that's what we have to be careful of. But there, we need this energy. It's like the spark of life, really, the Aries energy. And and without that, it really ties right into the survival instinct. And that has to exist in anything that's living, or it's not a healthy being. So it's not going to continue to exist or survive. So it's the most basic needed energy. And so there's nothing negative about it on that level. But like, when we're interacting with others, if we're not using our mind to temper some of that subjective energy, some of that aggressive energy, some of that self-driven energy that's motivating us, it can definitely make negative impressions on others, and have us end up being pigeonholed into like certain kinds of behavior that we may, like I said, regret that we did it at that point. But, so we're looking for that new beginning, looking for that new adventure, and taking initiative on that, and really working alone is really the best way to do that. It's hard for people to keep up with you when you're in this kind of energy. All right. So on Wednesday and Thursday, I mean, Tuesday, oh no, Wednesday and Thursday, Mercury is going to conjunct. Remember, Mercury went into Aries last week, so now the sun's joining it in Aries. Now, remember, the big thing for this month, one of the two biggest things of the month, I had said, and it came up again last week, is the conjunction of Chiron and North Node in Aries this month. So here's that Aries thing again. So Mercury in Aries this week on Wednesday, Thursday catches up with that conjunction of Chiron and the North Node. And so just like last week, when it got triggered by that Venus semi-square to it, this week it's going to get triggered by Mercury actually conjuncting the Chiron and Aries. And and when Mercury gets there, it is a very it brings in objectivity. First of all, Mercury is like, the intellect and more logical, and it's going to bring objectivity into the Chiron North Node energy. And so there's like a curiosity that should be occurring in relation to events that we're seeing that are triggering that North Node Chiron in us, which is, as I've said before, taking responsibility for our own healing path, and then, trying to find the right people who have similar goals to us, who are moving forward, who are, acting on that, and really taking initiative. So like with Mercury there, like what I think is going to happen is the things we've been seeing this month that relate to the Chiron North Node conjunction. And last week I said with Venus there, it was relationships. But the things that we're seeing this month that relate to that, now Mercury is getting it, the mind is like settling, it's getting a little bit detached and objective. And so it's clearing up. We're getting a little bit away from the emotional content of it. And so all of a sudden, new insights, new perceptions on what we're seeing. And using those insights and perceptions, it sparks some interest, this curiosity in our mind about learning about some of these things. And that learning can then create new original approaches, new original thoughts, new ways of going at things that we might not have been aware of before. And that's where the healing energy of where Chiron can come in. It's taught us a lesson through some of this pain, taught us we need to take initiative for some of these things ourselves, that we can't rely on others or the group all the time, that we even, or within the group context, we still even have to take initiative. So here, Mercury is learning this, and bringing that insight in, bringing that objectivity in. And that is a healing kind of energy. And it's definitely a learning kind of energy, because now we have new knowledge and we can add that to our knowledge base, and we have become more learned. And then actually at some point that becomes a gift for us that we can offer to others too, when they go through a similar situation of this. So, and then from there, when, with that, that's what's going to lead us back to like knowing clearly what our goal is. And from there, that's where we can assess those groups that we may or may not belong to yet, that are like, oh, here's some individuals who are being driven in the same way that I am, and these are the people that I need to make a connection with. And so, like, the thing is too, once again, you're bringing in Aries energy, and it is a conjunction, so the energy can fluctuate different ways under a conjunction. And what we have to be aware of in this situation again is, are we just being involved in these groups or associations just really for our own advantage. Because if we're doing that, then people are going to catch on to that and they are going to turn on us. And it is going to stain our reputation with that within that community or group or association. We'll kind of have a little bit of a stain from then on, kind of like a little bit of a scarlet letter. So, that's what we have to be aware of in this. But I think, it is a conjunction and it can go either way. And I do believe Mercury is going to bring some objectivity into the situation, new insights, and therefore can really be a healing experience for us and a learning experience for us, but we just don't want to allow the Aries thing to all of a sudden kick in and be like, oh, how can I take advantage of this? And get a little and take it too far, turn it into like an aggressive thing. Thursday, there's also a couple other things going on. And one of them is actually pretty big. Venus is actually doing its annual conjunction to Saturn on Thursday. So that's pretty big. But first, there's a Sun sextile Pluto that day. So that's an excellent energy for like rebuilding, reforming things, situations, things, relationships, all kinds of stuff, anything that can fit. That's something that's fallen somewhat into a state of what you want to call like disrepair or wearing out or breaking down. This is a day that you can really work on shoring that stuff back up, like repairing things, reforming things, fixing things. So like, so it's a really excellent energy for that. You have a really, really good focus and the ability to see, where the problem's coming from and to really focus in on that, and a lot of times we'll be given like power in situations that we didn't have it before under a Sun sextile Pluto. Like we're given power, like it naturally comes to us. It's not something we had to fight for. And so we have a new opportunity to wield that power for not only ourselves but other people and even society, in doing, like, once again falling into what is like a reformation kind of energy, so it's real good for that. And like I said, it's very focused. It will get to the bottom of things, and it's also an energy, like, once again we can look, the sun's like what we're doing, right? And Pluto gives the ability to see in the deeper parts of the mind what is actually motivating us to do those things. So it's really good for, like, self-analysis, counseling, human depth study, psychology, occult sciences, anything that's really getting into the deep parts of the mind that we're into exploring, like how does consciousness like actually operate, how does it form, how does it work, that kind of thing. And getting insights into that kind of thing. So yeah, it's a sextile, so we have to, use those opportunities if we see them and come along. But I think we may get that chance to use our power possibly in places where we weren't able to do so before, or not as effectively, before. So yeah, there's also the Venus conjunct Saturn, and this is in Pisces. So this is the annual conjunction of Venus to Saturn. Once a year, Venus will hit Saturn and then go by it. And if anything, if you want to put a one explanation on that, this is bringing sobriety and reality to all relationships. This really cools off the emotional part and doesn't allow it to influence how we're reacting to relationships anymore. We really get grounded in the way we look at things in relationships, and we get very real about what the status of relationships are. We cut out the fantasy, cut out the romanticism, cut out all that stuff. And we were looking for some kind of practical way for that to function, for relationships to function first. So there's a lot of sobriety, a lot of reality in relationships, and our loved ones, there may be ones that we're feeling very stuck with, like feeling very like, restricted, and that this is like, the reality of the situation, and have to accept that. And that can cause like a separation, especially of emotional content and intimacy to those relationships. There may still be some structure going on, but it's very much based in like real world needs, and there, be like this inner separation going on emotionally from the content of those relationships. It's really good for business relationships. I've watched Saturn and Venus operate one another. I've been doing astrology professionally for over 20 years and was into it for 10 years before that. Venus and Saturn, when they're together, they're really good for business relationships. It really gets us very objective. We don't get so emotionally caught up, so we can come to really solid agreements with others and build stable long-term relationships, which can be good in personal relationships too. It's more of a traditional value kind of Venus, a relationship energy when Venus and Saturn are together, and maybe in Pisces they can bring some new ideals into that lift the game up, but it definitely soberizes that stuff. And as far as like the Venus part of ruling money, we're very good with ruling with managing our resources and money. When Venus is conjunct Saturn, we're conservative actually, and we'll only use our money for what we consider things that we need or really good investments for, that are going to be long-term stable things. So that's actually good on that level, even though we may not have the amount of resource and money that we normally do. We actually do a really good job managing what we do have. And so then on Friday, Mars goes into Pisces. So this is the second planet changing signs this month, and Mars will be in Pisces for a couple months, so it's going to be a little bit longer. And, in all honesty, Mars is not very happy in Pisces. If we think about Mars, it's about taking initiative, right? It's about just like just go and do what you need to do. And when it's in Pisces, our emotions dictate that, to how much initiative we have. So literally, if we're feeling good, we will go and take initiative, and we'll, have a really good idealistic approach to what we're doing, and, to really appeal to our ideals. But if we're not feeling good, then we won't take initiative. We'll want to like just go lay down and take a nap or something, just not, or give in to a situation because emotionally we're not feeling good about it. And speaking of taking naps, that is one of the interesting things. Mars has a lot to do with our body, right? Our physical energy, and that's why it rules our actions. And so it is a time when it's good to be sure that you're getting enough sleep. This is the kind of thing where you can exhaust yourself and be pretty ineffective when you're awake if you're not getting enough sleep. Kind of be like moving around in a cloud, basically, when Mars is in Pisces when you're awake, if you're not getting enough sleep. And that may mean you need to catch up on you shortchanging yourself prior to this, or you may just require an extra hour or two of sleep during this period, or you may need some naps or whatever it may be. But it's like, it's definitely, something to be aware of. Now, just remember, Mars is, when it's in Pisces, like I said before, Aries is the most active, initiative, self-driven sign. Pisces is the opposite. It's the most passive, chilled out, collective sign. Okay, so Mars is in a sign, Mars rules Aries. So Mars is in a sign that is really counter to what it normally does. So it's not very assertive, is my point. It's not going to go out and push energy like it normally does. But what it will do is work for things that it believes in. It can be very, sensitive to others and want to help others out. and literally, in charitable type works, things like that, work for the groups that that you're aligned with their certain ideals, things like that. So just a very like for Mars, actually kind of the most unselfish energy that it can have, and willing to do things like that. But it can also, take a lot of energy away from us. And one of the things about Mars and Pisces too is like sometimes we kind of like there's a sensitivity to things and other people and environment and things like that. So a lot of times we'll retreat. It'd be like the tortoise that goes like back into its shell, and that and we may take actions that we don't really announce out there, that so they can be looked upon as like being secretive or even deceptive possibly. So that's something to be aware of, that if you're operating on this level of like, oh, I'm just going to kind of like disappear during this period because I'm feeling overly sensitive, then people start to get suspicious that you may be up to something, so so it's kind of interesting, but very motivated by our ideals for sure, in a very wide sense. So couple things on Sunday, and first one is really, really, I mean, they're both sweet. But this is really sweet. Venus is sextile Jupiter. It's one of the nicest aspects you can have. This is just about enjoying life with your loved ones, with your friends, hanging out, doing things you enjoy, enjoying the pleasures of life, and getting benefits from one another, giving opportunities to one another that can bring financial growth, that can bring other kinds of assets on all kinds of levels to you. So, it's also good that if you're involved in any kind of legal things, that like there can be good results of that. But it's really just best for being in this energy of give and take with your loved ones, enjoying life with your loved ones. And that's just perfect for a Sunday or a weekend. And the other aspect that day is, it's interesting, I had mentioned last week, I don't mention the asteroids too much, but when some of the outer planets get involved with them, I think you feel the effectors a little bit more because it's a little bit longer term. And I had mentioned last week Saturn was opposite Juno. Well, this week on Sunday, exactly a week later, Saturn again is sextile Ceres. And this is really interesting because I think what it's going to do is actually, first of all, it will act with the Venus Jupiter together. Like with the sextile Jupiter, the two of them will act together, where we'll want to bring more stability and nurturing into the relationships we have with our loved ones. We want to kind of stabilize our family relationships more, bring more structure into our family relationships, get more solid with the emotional support we have for one another on that level. So I think it really blends in well with the Venus Jupiter sextile, and just wanting, to like just like have that support for one another, for people that you really care about, and get it deeper, get it more reliable, get it more structured, get it more long term, really like settle into that kind of energy where it, just like what the Venus Saturn was talking about too, like bringing stability into relationships so that there's support that's there. So all right, well, that's what I got this week. Next week we're going into eclipse season. You guys remember the nodes, right? The nodes are where the eclipses are, when the moon gets into the signs that the nodes are, right? Then there's going to be eclipses, the sun and the moon, that is. So like the sun is going into Aries, and that's where we know the North Node is. So we are next week, when the full moon in Libra comes, which I think is 6 degrees Libra. Yeah, there is going to be a lunar eclipse that day too. So that's going to be a real big thing to talk about next week. We'll be going in. And of course, the big solar eclipse is the one everyone's waiting for in early April, but the lunar one is coming in first. So we're going to be talking about that next week. All right, this is Matt Lawton. This is the Astrological Winds channel. This is a free service that I give out there. I've been doing for years. And what I ask you right now is to pass the link on to somebody else that you think might be interested in it. I really appreciate that. If you do want to give some donation to help the blog along, I appreciate that too. And my Venmo handle is at the symbol A with the circle, Matthew with 2 T's hyphen in the middle, Lauten. And no amount is too small. The best way you can support me is, like I said, check out my website, www.astrologicalwinds.com. And I have all kinds of professional services that I offer individuals and groups, students too. And, take a look at that. If you're ever ready for a reading or someone else, get in touch with me. My contact info is right there. It's matthueh23@gmail.com. Open up a dialogue and we'll figure out what's good for you. And otherwise, remember the blog is not only available on YouTube, but on podcasts too. There's an Instagram page for Astrological Winds channel too. So, help me out. Please pass it along. I really appreciate everyone who does help me out. Really appreciate everyone who's given some donations and everyone who's come and gotten a reading at some point or another. You guys are like, just thank you so much. Really appreciate when you can do what you're meant to do. And I think that's what we all need to do for each other, especially as we go into this age of Aquarius, which I know you guys have heard me say that before. So anyway, please, please, please pass the link along. And, if you need to get in touch, matthueh823@gmail.com or www.astrologicalwinds.com. I'll see y'all next week, and we'll talk about that lunar eclipse coming up and that full moon in Libra.